Hello and welcome. Today we're digging into what is essentially a 4,200-year-old cold case. We're talking about the sudden, simultaneous collapse of the world's very first great civilizations. The central question we're going to tackle is this: was it just a natural disaster, or was it something humanity actually brought upon itself?
You know, this line here from the book of Jeremiah, it's not just ancient poetry, it's a gut punch, right? It captures that feeling of devastation that swept across the globe when the rains just stopped and the land literally burned. This is the world we're about to investigate.
But you see, before the collapse, humanity was living in something of a paradise. To really get what was lost, we have to look at the world they built. And that world was only possible because of a really unusually stable and fertile climate.
Climate scientists call this period the Holocene climatic optimum. For thousands of years after the last ice age, the planet was warmer and, crucially, wetter than it is today. You can almost think of it as Earth's great blossoming period.
It was so wet, in fact, that the Sahara Desert as we know it, well, it didn't really exist. You had stronger African monsoons pushing much farther north, creating what we call a green Sahara. We're talking a huge savanna, just teeming with life, and dotted with enormous lakes and rivers.
So this amazing climate was the perfect incubator for the Neolithic Revolution. For the first time ever, humans could reliably grow crops, raise animals. And that led to a food surplus, which in turn allowed populations to just explode. People could specialize in jobs that weren't just about finding food, and bam, the first great cities and empires began to rise.
Everything was on an upward trajectory for humanity. But then, right around 4,200 years ago, an event we call the 4.2 Kea event, the whole system just broke, and it happened suddenly and catastrophically.
The collapse was just shockingly fast. After millennia of stability, the world suddenly plunged into this severe, century-long megadrought. The rains just stopped coming.
And the effect was global. It was absolutely devastating. From Egypt's Old Kingdom to the Akkadian Empire in Mesopotamia, all the way to the great cities of the Indus Valley and the Longshan culture in China, the pillars of the known world all crumbled at pretty much the exact same time. And the Green Sahara, it dried up, and its people just vanished.
So this simultaneous collapse, it raises a massive question that scientists are still debating today. Was this just a case of bad luck, being in the wrong place at the wrong time during a natural climate cycle? Or did we, the very first farmers, accidentally trigger the world's first human-caused climate catastrophe?
Okay, so let's play detective here. First, let's look at the evidence for the natural disaster theory. This side of the argument suggests that, really, we were just victims of much larger planetary forces.
There's a formal name for this idea, the neo-deterministic paradigm. Now, that sounds complicated, but all it really means is that while our actions matter, it's the huge climate shifts that are the real drivers of history. In this version of the story, we're basically just passengers along for the ride, not the ones steering the ship.
The prime suspect for a natural cause is something called a bond cycle. The easiest way to think of this is like a natural, repeating rhythm in the North Atlantic's climate, a cooling-off period that happens roughly every 1,500 years. So proponents of this theory say the 4.2 K event was simply the next bond cycle on the calendar, just a particularly nasty one. This quote from researchers Isar and Zohar really nails the argument. They're saying the drought, lasting for centuries, was the first domino to fall. Human activities, like overgrazing or cutting down too many trees, just made a terrible situation even worse. We didn't start the fire, we just threw gasoline on it.
But what if humanity wasn't just an accessory to the crime? What if our fingerprints are all over the trigger? Let's flip the script and explore the other side of the debate, the case for a human-caused disaster.
Okay, for those of you studying earth sciences, this is going to sound familiar. The whole argument for human influence really hinges on a basic concept called the albedo effect. It's actually super simple. Think about wearing a black shirt versus a white shirt on a hot, sunny day. The black shirt soaks up the heat, right? And the white shirt reflects it and stays cooler. Well, the Earth's surface works in exactly the same way.
So here's the theory, this step-by-step chain reaction. First, Neolithic farmers clear millions of square kilometers of dark, heat-absorbing forests, and they replace them with lighter-colored, more reflective farmland. This makes the land cooler. Now, cool air sinks, and sinking air is the enemy of rainfall. It stops the convection you need to form rain clouds.
This messed with the huge atmospheric patterns that had literally been the lifeblood of these civilizations for thousands of years.
This chart shows you exactly what we're talking about. I mean, look at these numbers. A dark forest might only reflect about 5% of the sun's energy back into space. But farmland? That can reflect up to 25%. That is a massive difference. Now imagine making that change across an entire continent. You are fundamentally re-engineering the climate system.
And these regional changes had continental consequences. In Asia, for example, the theory is that all this deforestation was enough to literally alter the path of the entire Indian summer monsoon, pushing it eastward. For the massive cities in the Indus Valley, this was a death sentence. Their life-giving rains were basically diverted somewhere else. And we have to remember the scale of this. The human population might have grown by 200 times during this era. And this huge demographic boom was concentrated right along a really fragile climatic belt, the exact zone that was most sensitive to the very changes these people were making to their own landscape.
So, after looking at both sides of the case, where do we land? Was it a natural cycle, or was it a human-made catastrophe?
Well, the most plausible answer is probably both. It seems to have been a perfect storm. The Earth was likely entering a natural cooling phase, just a minor dip. But this moment of vulnerability was hit by the brand new, unprecedented power of human agriculture on a massive scale. Our actions took a natural downturn and amplified it into a full-blown catastrophe.
And this, to me, is the most chilling part of the story. The climate didn't just bounce back. The rains never fully returned to those once fertile regions. The world was permanently changed. The green Sahara was gone, forever. It's a change so big we can still see it from space. And that brings us to our final provocative question. Does this 4,200-year-old event represent the first time our species became a true geological force, powerful enough to actually break a regional climate? It's a pretty sobering thought, isn't it? That the very innovation that allowed our first civilizations to rise, agriculture, might have also held the seeds of their own destruction. It's an ancient warning about the fragile balance between human progress and environmental stability, a warning that echoes louder than ever today.